And now, the Business Experience Show.
Welcome to the Business Experience Show. I'm Lisa Caprelli. Also joining us in the think tank by telephone is Bardia Ghahremani, the COO of International Sports Agency. He has a law degree and is a sports player representative. He represents athletes in the NFL, MMA, NASCAR, and hockey. Hello, Bardia. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Lisa. Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be on the show.
Yeah, we're excited to have in studio today professional heavyweight boxer David El Nino Rodriguez.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, David.
How are you?
Good, buddy. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So over the last 14 years, David has amassed an astounding record of 36-0. That includes 34 knockouts and 24 first-round knockouts. Just over a year ago, he defeated former contender Owen Beck with a third-round knockout, adding luster to his remarkable rise. Since then, he's been sidelined with back-to-back injuries. First was a brutal assault in which assailants surprisingly lacerated his face from ear to chin, an injury that nearly killed him. That's not funny. But you look really good, David.
Oh, thank you.
I know you're making a complete...
I didn't know you were going to bring all that up.
All
right.
Yeah, you said let's have an open, honest interview.
We're talking about my injuries now. Right. Okay.
I know you have working right now on recovering. You have a knee injury. You were training for a July fight, right? That's been
right. No, yeah, I was getting ready for a big fight on pay-per-view, and basically, I just got done with this traumatic experience that I encountered that I almost lost my life. And finally, when I get back to go into training, bam, I injure my knee. So it's just been 2 setbacks, but I'm resilient and I come back through everything, and that's just the way I've been through my whole career. That's how fighters are, man. That's just the way we are. And I'm fine. My knee's healing. My face is completely healed. I'm not disfigured, and everything's perfect. I'm running on all cylinders. So I expect to be back in the ring by December or January in a very, very big fight.
That's awesome.
Under my own promotion, because I know this is the Business Experience Show.
Yeah,
so it is my own promotion.
No, that's a bang back-to-back incidences, and I think if I'm not mistaken, your knee you had the microfracture done, correct?
Yes, and you know what? But I was lucky because it was on a non-weight-bearing surface. Because a lot of NBA players get it, and they have it on the weight-bearing surface.
We've had a lot of players deal with that. That's why I said that.
How do they come back in base? I mean, do most of them come back from
that? Most of them come back 100%.
Oh, thank you.
A lot of what we know about the fight game is what we've seen in Rocky movies. I mean, there's a lot that's behind the scenes that we don't know about.
Brutal.
Your record is very impressive, and yet of our 30,000 plus listeners that we have, I'd bet fewer than 10% have ever heard of you, and that's not right.
No, it isn't right, and but it's the way it is. Boxing is really in the dark ages. Well, especially with the MMA rise and all that, it's really been put on the back burner. There hasn't been any great American heavyweights. The Europeans have taken the sport and moved it to Europe, and all the television there covers it. But it's not really covered in America anymore, and we're in need.
Well, and part of that is that you're a brand, you're your own business,
yes,
and an entire enterprise, and it's more than just being 36-0 with 34 knockouts. There are things that you can be doing to better promote yourself, and right now you're your own promoter. You can blame it on the past on other promoters.
Correct.
That may have been working with you.
Well, here's what I blame it on, and here really it is. Boxing is fighters are on the very bottom of the totem pole. You're not supposed to know what's going on at the. It's compartmentalized, really. As a fighter, you just know that you're going to go in the ring and fight, and that's all you should care about. And when I was a young kid turning 21, I signed my first contract. That's all I wanted to do. I didn't care about much else but going there and knocking people out and the scene afterwards. You know what I mean? So that's all I cared about. I was at that stage of my life.
That's right. You take care of that part of the business,
right,
and other people take care of the rest of it.
Correct. But see, boxing promoters are aging now. They're 80. 75, 80, 85. They're getting older now.
You're dealing with a lot of older, like Bob Arum and a lot of Don King. They're getting up there in age, and it's unfortunately it's kind of like the reason in my belief in the business side of boxing and MMA, the UFC came up and appealed to the young crowd. They
Correct.
Came in and they almost took what WWE is doing and turned it into a real fight. The way they promote them, the way they pump them, the way they market them, and they went ahead and took over where you as a fighter have to do it yourself now.
Right, and see,
MMA, UFC did it for them.
Right, and Dana White runs the show. So
exactly.
You got all these other in boxing. You got boxing is a worldwide sport, and it's run by so many different types of promoters, man. that are all trying to
so many
jockey.
different belts too.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's
UFC is one belt. That's
right.
like the WBA.
Right.
So
and
you've got all the other belts that don't see eye to eye, and one fighter has to go and try to unify. And now one fighter is getting promoted by one belt. It's really, and I think Kramer was saying that I've noticed in my years of managing Tito Ortiz, Tim Sylvia, Chuck Liddell, Gina Carano, all those years that I managed those fighters, you have to self-promote. The most incredible self-promoter I've ever ran across is Tito Ortiz.
Well, and we've heard all sorts of stories about horror stories about boxers and other athletes that have not been smart with their money, that have trusted unwisely other people. But what we're really concerned about today in talking about building your brand isn't what you do with all the money you make after you make it. It's how do you make the money, and part of that is being undefeated as a boxer is great, and that's a very important part. But how do you get the right people to notice you, to want you to be in a key fight? Well,
actually, a lot of the top fighters right now are taking an interest in me because I have the record. I'm an Mexican American fighter, and I have a city behind me. So in other words, when I go back to El Paso and I fight in El Paso, we sell it out.
Mm-hmm. David, you have a country behind you.
Well,
you have
two countries.
That's what I'm saying. You have two countries behind you, and yet, as I said before, our 30,000 plus listeners, very few have heard of you, and that's a shame.
Okay, everybody, David Nino Rodriguez. Remember that. David Nino Rodriguez, NinoBoxing.com. Look me up. I'm the next heavyweight champion of the world. All right, go ahead.
Yes, you.
If we have anything to do to help you with that, that's our goal too. We want to help you reach that.
David, on the phone with us is sports agent Bardia Ghahremani. Thank you for being on the phone with us. We have Cole Smith, Kramer, I'm Lisa Caprelli, and of course we here with David El Nino Rodriguez. And sometimes he just says Nino. He doesn't say the
I say the white version.
I know.
Nino.
I said, David, we have to say David El Nino Rodriguez. But okay, David Rodriguez. David, share with us why you got your promoter's license.
To carry more leverage. The promoters weren't, listen, there's all these backroom deals that are done.
What did you just say, Bardia?
I said because you probably wanted to be hated by everybody. Is a fighter. I give you a lot of credit for doing that, because when you do that, crossing over, you're putting a big old target on yourself where other promoters don't want to put you in.
But you had to get it.
Everyone says this is a game of pimps and hoes.
Right.
And it's like, now I'm like, no, I'm going to be, the hoe and the pimp. So it's like, I'm going to pimp myself out, man. You got to do that, because in boxing, it's dying so quickly. And these guys run a monopoly on everything. And I knew in my hometown, when I was fighting in Mexico, I had like 6 fights in Mexico.
Uh-huh.
I was promised a lot of money. I was promised certain sponsors. The promoters kept it all. Everything was done. My manager was keeping a certain amount of money. I knew something was wrong. I wasn't allowed into the meeting rooms when they were meeting, and I was like, I can't deal with this. This is not. Again,
like we talked about in the first Rocky movie, Rocky goes to this fight, and there's the headbutting, and at the end, he gets his cut is $12 or something.
Right. That's the truth. And I was sick of it. And I was like, I'm busting my butt, doing what I have to do, and training every day, and I'm the most explosive, exciting heavyweight out there right now, and I'm not getting what I want.
And you're all you've got, and you've got to take care of you on this. And on the business end, I mean, quite frankly, you will not be able to fight forever.
No,
there will come a time whenever that is.
And I'm going into the promotional field as well, and I have to start setting those things up.
Well, no, 10 years ago is when you needed to start setting those up.
Right, but I was just, like I told you, I was just a rambunctious kid, just didn't care. Now it's like, it wasn't until I was about 28 that it dawned on me. I was like, wait a minute, there's something wrong here.
How did you find what an ethical team was?
There is no ethical team in boxing. It's like, that doesn't exist. I mean,
in sports.
Yeah, I'm like, wait, there is?
Well, and it's not just sports, it's entertainment also. And we hear the parade of horribles about musicians and artists that make nothing from their albums. They end up filing for bankruptcy because the promoters and everyone else made all the money.
Right. Well, yeah, that's boxing. I mean, everybody makes the money except the fighter, and the fighter never questions it. And, I've heard horror stories about these guys not getting their paycheck after a fight, or it's half the paycheck they were promised. And, the fighter doesn't do nothing. They're just, oh, man, just next time. I'm like, no, man, go get a lawyer and fight this. But what's that worth, though, really? Especially when these up-and-coming fighters are making only $3,000, $5,000 a fight, and then they get and that's what they're promised, and they get a check for $1,500. It's just like, it's just such a slap in the face.
Do you know what you're going to make in a fight before going in?
Yeah, you make beforehand, yeah.
Okay.
And after the 13 years I spent with my last management team, I'm not going to say any names, But
Good.
I really just I couldn't take anymore, and I finally got to the point where I was like, that's it, it's over. That was really too long.
Well, you talk about boxing with such disdain or unhappiness, but you also
love
seem
boxing.
to love boxing, right?
It's a love-hate relationship. It's like a marriage. I love boxing. It's just honestly, to me, it's the greatest sport. You know, I know a lot of people watching MMA right now, and I know I'm a boxer, but boxing's always going to be, to me, on a pedestal. I love boxing. And it's.
I think you wish you had a better experience with management along the way.
Yeah, but I'm not. You know, to me,
we got to take a break.
Okay.
We're here with David El Nino Rodriguez. Welcome back to the Business Experience Show. We have professional heavyweight boxer David Rodriguez. Also on the phone with us is Bardia Ghahremani, COO of International Sports Agency. David, what advice do you have for someone who follows your career? They want to be in boxing. What advice would you have to them if you could do it all over again and you could mentor someone? This is the way to go into the boxing world.
Don't do it.
Okay.
Don't do it.
Just
Learn
follow
from
you.
my mistakes and move on. No, I mean, it's really a brutal process.
Right.
I think you know, a lot of guys in boxing, it's you got to put in 110%, no doubt about it.
Right.
You got to be in the gym. You know, it's 24/7. It really
It's
is.
a job.
It is, and it's like you can't concentrate on all the different areas. You got to be in the gym 24/7. You got to eat and sleep boxing, and that's it. And you know, that's why these promoters and managers have such an easy time taking advantage of these guys, because their job is to get in the ring and beat the guy and get out, and everything should be taken care of. But in boxing, of course, it doesn't work that way.
But if that's your dream, that's what you say you love it, then that's exactly what
Then you'll find a way.
if you were born to do this, then you've lived out your dream already.
I am. I'm inspiring other people to take, you know, control of their own control of their own career.
Well, and I've got a different perspective, and I'll let you know that I was the president of a minor league baseball team, and I was accused of exploiting, you know, young athletes, paying them $700 a month to play baseball while they were pursuing their dream also. And quite frankly, it's supply and demand.
Yeah.
There were lots of kids that wanted to play baseball, and in my league,
And would do it for that.
and that would do it for that, exactly right. And they weren't making big money, but quite frankly, in the minor league level, we weren't either. If we weren't selling enough hot dogs and sodas, we weren't making any money either. And so that was the business.
So now you
decision.
know my position when I was coming up. I just wanted to fight, and it was the girls, and it was that, and that's what I wanted. And the money, yeah, that helped. But I was just into the image and fighting, and I love fighting, and I love boxing, and all that. And then as I started getting older, I'm like, wait a minute. I need to, you know, pay my car. I need my mortgage. You know,
Right.
then all that started coming in. I'm like, okay, no, something needs to change.
Yeah, but as a young fighter, I mean, there are a lot more fighters than there are fights and matches, and part of the value of the entertainment of boxing is the promotion, getting people to buy the tickets, getting whatever media to cover it, getting the sponsorship. There's a lot there, and it takes a while before you can distinguish yourself between one of the many young fighters, and now you have that. I mean, you've
Right.
built a record that is you should be taken very seriously.
You know, I
And-
feel like the next 3 fights are going to be my biggest fights of my life. You know, I just need to get my knee correct. You know, all this stuff, this timeout, I believe, you know, God put this in my life to learn from and figure out other parts of my career.
David, they're not just going to be the biggest fights because of who you're going to fight, but it's what you're going to do with your brand in the next 3 fights
Yeah,
that
what are
you'll
you
be
gonna
able
do
to
to
build
work on
on
that?
afterwards.
You're 100% correct, and definitely that needs work.
And
obviously.
And as we talk about brand, and that's something that people throw around, they talk about how a person or a product is identified a certain way. One thing that you have that could use a lot of help is positioning. They talk about marketing, and marketing is very important, and there are people on this panel that can talk about that. But you're different, and you can position yourself so that you are number one in your field and get somebody's attention or the right people's attention to get the shot that you so rightly deserve. It's like 7-Up could never compete with Coca-Cola, so they became the Uncola, and they were number one as the Uncola.
Right.
Avis tried harder. The Whopper was have it your way. That's positioning so that you
Gotcha.
and
You-
with the American-Mexican connection, it's very important. And without tapping into the patriotic or the racial side, I mean, boxing has a history of the Great White Hope.
Exactly. And you know, that's what MMA took off with.
right. And
They
and
created the
Wepner
Great White
and
Hype and
including-
made it a sport, really. I mean, that's honestly most of their success right there. They
That's
appeal to the white suburban kids.
And Jerry Cooney and Chuck Wepner, they got their shots, more shots than probably should have, because of
Yeah.
the positioning that they had.
Right.
that some
100%
promoter got behind them because that's what sold tickets and sold television.
Now boxing is appealing more to the Latin people. You know what I mean? And that's really where it's appealing the most now. That's why you have like Budweiser and Miller's sponsoring MMA, and Tecate and Corona are going to boxing.
But don't you see, with your brand and the positioning of your brand, you could put yourself in a position where you'd have to get the shot that you so richly deserve.
We're working on that. And David, you're aware of that, and I honor you for being open to that. Obviously, you're not like the end all be all that. No, it's my way or the highway.
No, I'm open to all of it. Of course, I'm.
You want your career to get better. You're
right.
You know, you're the oldest you've ever been. You really want this. You want the next 3 fights of your life.
And the youngest I'll ever be. So I better.
That's right.
There you go. You see, he has accounted for everything.
And even if we were going to argue with you, we wouldn't dare argue with you. Not while you're in studio.
I'll ruin the studio.
But one thing I was going to add to that, David, I mean, just in my years of being an agent and doing what I do marketing-wise, you don't even have to be the heavyweight champion. You don't have to be.
That's right.
The marketing dollars come if you're just marketable. Now, I mean, everybody knows Honor Corner Cobra. I don't think that young lady won a tournament in her life.
You're right.
But she was one of the most endorsed tennis players in the world. So for you, I mean, you have a lot of facets that you can go ahead and market, which is being Mexican-American.
Right.
Number two, you're very well-spoken, so you can obviously do commercials and whatnot. But I think what you bring to the table is that connection with not only the Mexican-Americans, but the young up-and-coming fighters, MMA fighters, and actually start pulling some of the MMA guys. I don't think you're willing to go to MMA from just speaking with you in the last few. I think you could start pulling more fighters from the MMA to the boxing world by branding who you are and potentially opening up locations of boxing gyms that are yours that start catering to, you know, maybe disadvantaged financially, you know, lower income, and starting to make a brand and build yourself, and from there you can kind of keep moving forward. I don't know if you've ever thought of that, but that just popped in my head. Is you're really, you can be the poster boy.
Yes,
in all reality.
And he's good looking. I mean, everyone.
Oh, wow, thank you.
Yes, David Rodriguez. If you go to ninoboxing.com, I mean, I know you're really enjoying
now the fighters really want to beat me up.
I know you're really enjoying your visit to Southern California this week. Your record's amazing, and perhaps you haven't received the media attention you deserve because Hollywood doesn't really care what happens outside of LA and New York. Frankly, David, your record and career might have simply outgrown the areas you are in. Have you considered a move to the area?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, of course. I would love to live in California.
I know you're loving it out here.
I just have to train in Vegas. My trainers are in Vegas.
Right.
I train with a Mayweather's trainer, and my team is. I have a very good team in Vegas, so I'd have to go out there for training camp. But I always go back to Texas to visit my family because, you know, that's where my roots are. But I am starting. You know, I am beginning to want to expand and get in the area or the place that I need to be to grow.
Right.
And I would think, honestly, California would be it. So yeah, I a lot of things right now are just growing on me, and I'm really starting to look at all avenues, and California is one of them. So
yeah, you need to figure out what you want to be when you grow up. Because
right, I haven't grown up yet. That's for sure.
You're going
to move into the next phase of your life,
right.
And in order to be prepared, the time to think about it is now or before.
You're right.
Well, not only that, I think that the important part is you got a balance here to play by self-promoting and being a boxer, because like you said earlier, 24 hours a day you're having to get ready for these 3 fights. How are you going to balance that?
Well, here's the thing: we signed with Zeffirino Entertainment, where he's promoted a lot of fights. He's had a lot of a few pay-per-view fights. So he's kind of like he does all the legwork, and so he does that side of it. Okay. So in other words, we're partners. I just have to see everything coming in and going out because I was really sick of being screwed over.
Right.
And I wanted to see all the numbers, and I wanted to learn the business so that way when I get ready, and I've already signed some fighters under me to fill the card up when I'm fighting. Although we bring in other fighters from other countries and stuff like that, and we sell there, but that way I can see everything because I want to know the business now, because I want to know when I decide to exit the sport that I already have one step into something else, which is promoting, and I'm already doing it. So as I promote my own shows, I'm learning it.
Right.
I'm seeing everything. I'm seeing the numbers. I see what we got to pay for. I see the expenses. I know what we make on concessions at the gate. I know what TV pays now. You know, and I was in awe when I learned all that because I was like, wow, I was getting nothing. You know what I mean? I was like, gosh, you were hiding this from me.
I'm amazed, though. I mean, it's really sad. I mean, had you had it done correctly the first time, and
well, no fighter's supposed to know this stuff.
But Lisa, they don't want you to. No promotion wants you to. Bob Arum doesn't
but
want you to know how much money he's making.
Wouldn't you have David Rodriguez for life if you were ethical and represented him right? Just because it's the right thing to do, and I know people don't do that.
But unfortunately, ethics is a challenging thing when it comes to sports, entertainment. It just doesn't happen.
Well, there's no transparency.
It's about that dollar, and they rather take advantage of someone as long as they can, and then from there they'll go ahead and maybe give you a little here, a little there. But they're not going to give you anything without you asking for it.
Exactly.
Well, and you need to have the leverage to be able to demand certain things, and you have that now. You've earned that. You didn't have that 33 fights ago. You didn't have any leverage.
You know, and I look back at my career, and I just think about everything. I'm like, I cannot believe I'm 36-0. I have 6 titles. And the NABA title, the major titles that you have to get to go for the heavyweight championship, and still virtually unknown, and still never had a shot at the Klitschko's. And I know if I was a Klitschko's, I wouldn't want to fight me either, honestly.
I will say you do, in your defense, you do have a big Facebook following. You do have, you're a magnet for people just being around you. I mean, you have a really good personality.
I should flatter you so much.
I've told you, you're very humble. You're very humble and down to earth. Don't get shy on me, David.
I'm not shy.
No, I know you're not shy. But I could even see like a TV reality show following you around before your next fight because you have a really interesting life.
I was thinking the same thing. That's one of those things to where you go to like a Mexican television station, Univision or whatever in L.A., and you go ahead and pitch it to them that look at my fan base on Facebook, Twitter. I'm fighting my next fight, whoever at that time you give them the information, and you make a nice little series reality show on Mexican-American TV. It doesn't have to be ESPN. But that's how you get that ball rolling, because once you get that ball rolling, now your followers go up. Next thing you know, once you go into the promotion, you might have them as a partner to televise your events.
And David,
the thing about me being my own promoter also is that you got to remember I have the freedom to do what I want.
Well, but you're also handicapped because sometimes it's easier to have somebody else sell you rather than have you sell yourself. You got to remember
the people that I had selling me weren't doing a very good job.
It's different in Hollywood, and you're not just talking about a boxing promoter at that point. You're talking about somebody that's promoting your brand and who you are and what you bring to somebody else. And part of this now in these next few years, you're going to need to make some choices. The reality show is time consuming, and it will cut into other things that you could do. You could be a motivational speaker. There are so many things you can do right now. Do you go after certain endorsements and sponsorship, and can you possibly do it all? And the answer is probably not. You need to start saying no to some of these opportunities.
When it comes to fight time, as my friend Danny sitting there knows, it's strictly fight time. I do the media, I do the promotions, but I am strictly consumed with training. My mind is in battle mode. I'm ready to fight. I'm in a different zone. I mean, this interview would be completely different if I was coming up on a fight. It'd be very much more serious tone. I wouldn't be laughing. None of that stuff. I'm in a different mindset. I'm in a different world. So I don't get to. The only time I get to concentrate on other areas is after the fight.
Yeah. David, here's some advantages that I see for you just right out of the gate. And one, you do have the experience. Right. So being a self-promoter, you're the CEO of your company.
Correct.
You're one of the strongest pieces that you need right now is to be able to delegate. So when you're not in the business frame, you're in the boxing mindset, you can go do your thing and you can trust that the people are doing your job.
Right.
If they don't do their job, you get rid of them and you find somebody.
Well, you got to remember though, this is new to me. This just happened last year. 2011 was my breakout year because, and right now I have 2 injuries, so I'm not doing much. So that's why I'm here.
Right, sure.
Right, but everyone still believes in you, and
right. I mean, I've already. It's amazing. It's like when I'm getting ready for a fight and everything's happening, I got all these calls, my phone's blowing up, and then when I get injured, I'm like, crickets. Where do my friends go? I have like 5 friends that maybe it's like you count on one hand, but it's just amazing. It's amazing to see both sides of how it works, and honestly, it humbles me because, I know just like anybody that's an athlete, you know it's going to end someday, and you know that all the glory and adulation, and when I go into an arena and I walk in, sports teams walk into an arena full of 10,000 people, 20,000 people. I walk into that alone. And that to me is unbelievable to hear everybody chanting your name.
And it's for you.
And it's just the adrenaline, and then knowing that, I also tell everybody boxing is such a lonely sport, because when you walk into the arena, you walk in with all your trainers and everyone behind you. And then when you get in the ring, everybody gets out. And then you're just in there by yourself looking at this guy going, oh, this is for real.
I've heard you say that you have prayed for your opponents after a fight.
I pray for them before and after a fight, yes. I do, because it's a danger. They have families and they have kids. They have kids. They have a family, and they need to make their money. They're gladiators, and they're just here to do what they have to do. And
it's a business.
It is, man. And I don't wish them any harm.
But it's a brutal business. I mean, we've heard of stories, and it doesn't make the front page of the newspaper or the back sports page. But there are people that actually die in the ring.
Oh, I've seen it 3 times.
I've
encountered that 3 times.
How do you transfer your anger before you box, or how do you?
I'm just calm. I always have that. It's you have to be a calculated killer. It's not like I'm in there just, I'm going to rage and go crazy. It's not like that. No, I center my energy. It's like a meditative state. I'm in a zone. I'm very, very calm. I look through my opponent. When I get in the ring, I look through my opponent. He's just an obstacle that I need to get over. And I go in there and I do my job, and I just let it flow like water, and it just happens, and the knockout comes on its own.
We just put you on Twitter today, so now you can tweet.
Yeah, how pathetic is that?
Yeah.
I'm just now getting into the emperor.
Building your brand.
But we're building David Rodriguez, the businessman, David the brand. He gets it. Cole, explain to the listeners why you want to have Twitter, especially someone like David Rodriguez.
Well, it's not just Twitter. It's all of your digital footprints. I mean, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all of those things, you want to be able to set your messages up. You have tons of celebrities out there. If you've got a ton of followers that's on Facebook, you need to send them over to your Twitter account.
We did that.
We just started that today. And you know what's crazy is that it's just because what happened is that I have the official David Rodriguez Facebook fan page, right?
Yes.
And I have everybody on my personal page. So my personal page took off. It exploded. And I have subscribers now and all that.
You reached the maximum.
I get to the point where I'm not big on that, so I probably should have someone else run it. But I get all these emails, and good emails, hate emails, hate mail. Yeah, and I just have to deal with this.
With it.
And sometimes I just go, man, screw this. I'm getting off it for a while. And I'll get off Facebook for like 2 months.
Yeah, but think about this, though. Your Twitter account and your Facebook, you're promoting your fights.
Right.
You're wanting now to create a brand. You want to create products.
But right now, what am I doing? Promoting my injuries?
No.
It's like, I'm just like, hey, I have nothing to talk about.
That's what you're doing.
On the phone with us is Bardia Ghahremani, COO of International Sports Agency. You had a question, Bardia, or a comment?
No, I was saying right now what you're doing is you're becoming the people's champion. By the events that happened to you in my years of doing it with Tito and at the end of the day, you're becoming the people's champion right now.
Only if
because
the people
you
hear
suffered
about it
something that could happen to me, that could happen to everybody in that studio.
Wow.
Your injury, same thing. You're becoming the people's champion. You're getting yourself out there because the next time you fight, you want everybody to remember that's the guy that suffered 2 adverse situations. He's
I'm
overcome
going to respectfully
adversity.
disagree. You're not the people's champion. You're not the people's choice if the people don't know who you are and if you're not reaching them.
Of course,
and it's your
definitely
responsibility.
Right, you're making yourself the people. That's what I'm saying. Like you got to build yourself right now to become the people's champion is what I'm referring to.
It's never been easier to do that with the social media that's out there. You don't need to take out a full-page ad in newspapers throughout the country. For free, you can get your word out, your message out, and you can build a brand if you're smart about it and if you have the help that you need to get to be able to.
That's what I mean by boxing being in the dark ages. These guys don't know this.
You said the people were antiquated.
Well, the old-time promoters may or may not know. It brings to mind the book and then the movie Moneyball about baseball, where you have the old-timers that are sitting around a room and talking about, I don't like that guy. He doesn't look like a ball player. And they look at the statistics and they say, but he gets on base, 42% of the time.
Yes.
This guy has he walks more than he strikes out, and he hits with runners in scoring position.
And then even the coach didn't want to play him the way he wanted him to, and that's why they weren't getting the numbers they wanted.
That's
right.
right.
Yeah, and then until later.
And the moral of that story was, the dinosaurs become extinct, and,
Right.
and there are ways to change in the boxing game and the boxing business, and it starts with branding yourself, positioning yourself, and you will get that shot, and then you'll make the
Right,
most of it
and
when
see,
that
that's what's
happens.
happening now is that, and I look at this as a very opportune time for me to advance in every aspect of the boxing world, because with the people I'm meeting and the people that are really helping me to get my name out there and doing shows like this, etc., even though I've been injured or whatever, it's all helping. It's all helping. It's putting ideas into my mind. Okay, I got to do this next. I got to do that next. I have the energy right now to do it. Like I said, when I go into training camp, things change. I only have energy to train.
And so maybe I mean, if you look for the silver lining in the cloud, the blessing is you now have time to have the clarity to look at where you are and where you want to be and take the action
and
steps
it's being
to
brought to my attention. I'm able to go ahead.
If you have a question for David Rodriguez, give us a call at 877-880-830. You can speak with David Rodriguez now, the one and only, the undefeated champion. When I tell people you're undefeated, they don't believe me. And I said, no, Google him. And, Google is like...
He's a big guy.
Is the Bible.
I wouldn't want to get in the ring with him.
I know, but he's a really cool, down-to-earth guy. And I keep saying this because he's a man, and it's hard for men to be humble. And I'm saying this as a female. And he's so humble. He's done so much charity work. And when you see pictures, sometimes people do charity work because, I want the fame behind it. He really does it because he loves helping people.
It's kind of funny. Like it took the value away from it when I went to go visit some cancer kids in the hospital, and it really cheapened it when the cameras were there. And I was like, dude, I am not doing a photo op just to make myself look good.
That was in Texas?
Yeah, and I got all the cameras out, and I said, dude, I can't do this with my mind. With my heart like this, I go, you guys just have to leave.
Yeah.
I can't do this in Goodwill because pose with them, and I'm like using the kid as a prop. It's like, dude, it's crazy. It's like, no, I'm not using it for that. I'm okay. One more picture. Okay, now go. No, really, I couldn't do it, and I just didn't. I didn't feel right about it, and that to me is like when I do charity work and stuff like that, I kind of just keep the cameras out of it. And people always tell me, no, you gotta get exposure for that. You gotta show people you're doing that. I understand that, I do, but I have a good heart about that kind of stuff, and I kind of just like to keep it.
But just remember, your audience wants to know who you are as a person.
Yeah,
and it's not that it's taken away from who you are. Yeah. Sometimes it's good, and then there's the times that you do on your own. But your audience, and that's where your social media, keep them posted on who you are and where you're going and what you're doing.
Well, let me talk about the whole Twitter thing and the social media. Part of the demographic of the people that have Twitter, that follow celebrities on Twitter, it's a younger crowd. I don't know that that's the crowd that buys tickets to sporting events. Maybe it is and maybe it isn't. That's not my business.
Kramer, what's younger crowd mean to you?
my kids know about Twitter. So I mean, it's teenagers and people in their 20s.
You'd be surprised.
Let's talk about
that. A lot of 30, 40-year-olds are more active on Twitter than teenagers.
Okay, and
exactly.
of our 30,000 listeners out there, I don't know how many of them are on Twitter.
Kramer doesn't have his Twitter account yet.
Okay, well, I should set you up, Kramer, but that's another show. The Business Experience Show. We could do that with everybody. Yes, you can follow David Rodriguez on Twitter. Your website is?
Well, my website's Nino Boxing, and then Twitter I just opened up today, and that's Nino Boxer at Twitter.
I know. We give you
right? You did that for me.
I did do that for you, and he's humble enough to share that he doesn't have a Twitter yet, and that's going to change, and people are just going to follow him. I mean, you're not going to be like the next door neighbor that says, I have a Twitter, and today I'm watering my flowers, and please, follow me. Like, you're David Rodriguez.
I never wanted to mess with it. I just didn't. I never.
Most
wanted
people
to mess
don't.
with it. It's just, I swear, it's like every day, it's like something new, and I'm just like, man, I just want to keep my stress levels low. Yeah. And now it's like, no, you got to have this, you got to have a LinkedIn, you got to have a Twitter, you got to have a Facebook.
To keep your stress levels low, you get in the ring with guys that are 6'5", 250 pounds. That are looking at you.
I'm stressless now.
Yeah.
Okay, so you see, I got a lot of stress. I don't want to mess. But yeah, man, I mean, good point. You stumped me there.
This way, if you genuinely want to get into the social media network and start marketing yourself, link your Twitter to your Facebook.
Yes.
Tweet,
we did that today.
On Facebook. I mean, that's the easiest way. One time does it all.
That's right. David, what is your most satisfactory victory?
Oh, I think my first pro fight when I broke the ice, and then, but the biggest one was knocking out Owen Beck because I was Don King's boy, and that was.
I heard you knocked him out for 20 minutes. Is that true?
Yep, I sure did. And you know, let
like
me tell you,
asleep for 20 minutes.
Yeah, they brought
him. Hear it these days, but was he like asleep for 20 minutes?
Yeah. They had to bring him oxygen.
I gotta see footage on that.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
We'll be putting that on your site soon.
I wasn't. I'll be honest with you, man. I knelt on one knee and prayed because I was really concerned for his health. It's not something.
Yeah, you didn't know, of course.
Dude, I was really scared, man. I was like, oh, man, if I killed someone in the ring, dude, I would never box again. I just wouldn't have.
You can't think like that, though. I mean, that's just always, that's the no-no.
That's just part of the game.
Never talk about.
It is. I know I'm risking going in there myself in jeopardy as well. I'm putting myself in harm's way, and it's a jungle, man. It's there is no nice anything in boxing, man. I throw elbows.
But you can't tell me after he was okay and he woke up from the 20-minute sleep, you didn't high five
some people.
Smile.
I asked him, "You want to go get a beer?"
High five people.
I was excited. I was elated because it was a huge victory, man. Because a lot of people were saying, "Oh, Rodriguez, he's fought some guy. He never fought a contender." And when I went in there and I knocked him out the way I did, it was a huge exclamation mark. It was a huge statement because, man, it was just like, I'm here.
Does nearly every fight end with someone in the hospital?
No, they have a doctor that checks you when you get out of the ring. But, yeah, a lot of fights do. I mean, not like severe.
They take it precautionary.
Yeah, exactly.
They'll do the precautionary, make sure you didn't break your neck. Of course, I think they do all that. But I got a quick question for you, David. What would you be doing if you weren't fighting? What would you be doing right now? What would be your second love outside of boxing?
Gosh, man, when I grew up, I played all sports. I played baseball, football, basketball, all of it. And I just got in trouble in school so much and kicked out so much. Boxing was my saving grace. The only place I could go was a boxing gym. So I was always in trouble, as a kid, and
I heard you were bullied a lot as a kid.
I was bullied and I bullied people. So it was like I was always in trouble, man. I was a bad kid, but boxing was my saving grace. Like the one place that left the doors open for me was a boxing gym. And strangely enough, a police officer, his name was Joe Sullivan, knew that I was always in trouble, and he saw my talent in the boxing ring, and so he picked me up every day from school and took me to the boxing gym because he knew that was the only place I wouldn't get in trouble.
It was an outlet for you.
David, talk about boxing for a minute. It's to the uninformed spectator, it looks like two guys that are just out there punching each other without any sort of plan. There's a lot that goes into it with footwork and strategy.
Man, it's just like if you look at ice skating or gymnastics or anything like that, they're always on point, their technique. Boxing is the same. Boxing, you have to have the technique. Everything is it's you're playing defense and offense at the exact same time. It's a high-speed chess match, and it's the game of least mistakes. You make a mistake, you're done. The fight is over. It's one punch can end the fight. You can be going 10, 11 rounds, and the 12th round get caught with a punch, just like Chavez did with Taylor.
I'm sure it doesn't even have to be that hard of a punch, huh, David? It could be right on the button.
It's called catching cold leather, man. It's a punch you don't see that gets you, and bop, it just has the right snap behind it, and then that's it. You're out, and that's what's dangerous, especially in heavyweights. A heavyweight can be sloppy and have a lot of endurance and hit you on top of the head and knock you out. I mean, heavyweights is the lighter weight divisions take a lot of beatings. They take a lot of punches. And you see a lot of the beautiful, sweet science and skill in the boxing. The heavyweights is the one punch home run. That's what people like to see. Like my favorite fighters like Holyfield and Tyson and those guys. To me, not even MMA comes close to that. I'm sorry. It does not come close to a Tyson fight when he was in his prime. That, to me, the whole world stopped to watch that guy fight. Yes. The whole, everyone loved watching him.
But they watched to watch him knock people out.
Right.
I'm not sure they saw
tenacity.
The uninformed spectator doesn't see the skill, the strategy.
It's sad.
It's really quick. By the time you get your popcorn and you sit down, the fight's over already.
It's sad, but they don't understand that he trains every day, all day long, to be that good.
Except when he went to Tokyo to fight Buster Douglas.
Well, he had some problems. And it was a woman. A lot of it was, when that's I would say your life has to be straight on both ends, man. You can't, if you're going to be doing right in the gym, you have to be doing right in your personal life. And a lot of fighters are self-destructive by nature. And when you get into when you have a fighter like Mike Tyson who's just killing everybody, there's going to be a time when you're going to slack a little bit. And it's going to be against a guy that comes under the radar. That's the guy that's going to get you. And, because to prepare for the tough guys, you'll do that. But when you think you're going to just walk right through a guy, They give you the toughest fights sometimes.
And you wonder, how did a guy like Buster Douglas that nobody ever heard of, how did he get the shot? And why don't you get your shot now?
Well, like I said, even now today, like the Klitschko's, they handpick everybody. I believe they're cashing out. One's 30, I think 37, the other one's 41.
41, right.
And these days, let's be honest, heavyweights is a different era. They blossom later. They mature later. It's like breeds of dogs, like a Great Dane and a Chihuahua. They're two different kinds of breeds of dogs.
The last thing that goes the punch, yeah.
Yeah, so you always keep your punch. They say this: first your reflexes, then your speed, then your friends.
David, right before the break, we're talking about things that we'd like to see for you to do next. But most importantly, as Bardia said earlier, what do you see yourself in the future? And you're still young.
You mean? But the question was, what did I want to do if I didn't box?
That's right.
Yeah. Right. Or what do you want? And then what do you want to do when you do get out of boxing? What ideas?
Well, I would like to. Like my family's. We're well off in real estate and commercial real estate, so I know I would go into that. But promoting, I said promoting.
Yes.
But I would love to. I think I was born to be an athlete. I would have just been a different sport, But like I said I couldn't concentrate in school. I was always in trouble. I was always getting in trouble. The only sport that accepted me at that time was boxing. I would go to the Bardia. I'd go to the ghetto gyms and fight, and I fell in love with the sport, man. I mean, I was doing it since 5 years old. So I fell in love with that sport. It was more appealing to me than running in for a touchdown and pitching in baseball and all that. And honestly, to me, knocking a dude out was just more gratifying. It took out my frustration. So it would have been another sport.
David, I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask a quick question. What's different now from when you were in high school and where you are today as far as a person?
Oh, I've just learned so much. I mean, hard knocks, just being down and picking myself up and boxing in itself. There's a lot of that, a lot of emotional wear and tear,
and you're all grown up now, as people say, and
the life lessons that I've taken away from boxing, I'll cherish forever, and it's made me a tougher person. I've learned to accept a lot more. You got to remember I was just a kid and growing up, and that's a man's sport. Having to get into the ring and fight grown men and do it the way I did it with such tenacity and knocking these guys out quick. I was knocking guys out like Tyson. In fact, I broke his first round knockout record. So I know. What? Yes, I did.
And there are so many things you can do. I mean, you come across as articulate, sincere. You're smart. You're passionate about so many things. And one of the things you're going to need to do as you refine your brand over the next few years is to say no to certain opportunities, because there are so many things you can do, but the power of no is taking control of your future.
Well, at this point, I think I just need to say yes.
No, it may sound counterintuitive, but I know it to be true that saying no is where you'll be able to shape your future.
Saying no to people that, like you said, David, that bug you, or people that aren't benefiting you, a benefit to you, and it's not that you're being selfish. But
here's what gets me is that these. I have friends that all of a sudden, I'm pretty big in El Paso and in the Southwest area, and they have all of a sudden they have all these charity events, and they throw these guilt trips on me like, hey man, I bought this many tickets to your last fight, you can at least come to the charity and show up and do this and that. And I'm like, man, bro, this is not what I do. This is not like, why are you holding that over my head? I go, if you're my friend, then you'll understand that. First of all, what's a charity for? No, some charity they created that obviously they're making money off of, and I don't feel good doing that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Just my ethics alone don't allow me to do that.
Here's the deal here is create your value system for your business, what you want to do as a person. You pick and choose what you want to do, but write it down what it is that you want to do. Those types of things will come to you, and if it's not within what you want to do, turn it down. Right. But if it is, have them to meet you where you want them to be.
But it also goes to the brand that you're building.
That's right.
And you need to figure out whether that expenditure of time and your resources helps you for what you're trying to build in the future.
Well, it's kind of like also like this last attack that was made on me and I almost died. A lot of people are like, oh, it's negative, it's this and that, and I was like, no, man, I survived that. This can be very positive for a lot of people.
It's inspirational.
Right, because I almost died. I lost 3 pints of blood. I was saying prayers to my family in my mind that I was gone. So I have to use that as inspiration to move on and know that I'm here for a purpose, to deliver a message or whatever I have to do, win that title, whatever, and people will follow that. That in itself is huge.
David, what do you want to share with your listeners, with your fan base? What do you want to share about David El Nino Rodriguez?
That I'll never be counted out. I'm the most impressive, explosive heavyweight on the scene. And I know I sound really cocky right now, but that's really how it is. I am the best bet in America right now, and I'm going to get a title shot, and I'm going to knock out Klitschko, and people will see the real deal. It's going to happen. I haven't done this in vain.
Knock them both out.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure one's going to retire before the other. I'm pretty sure that's what they're planning to do. But like I said, I am not a quitter. I don't give up. This is what I'm here to do, and that's what I'm going to accomplish.